$10,000. That is a fair bit of hard yakka for most of us. A decent chunk of your savings sitting right there on the table. Now, look at where you are. If you're living in Perth or Adelaide, that stack lasts you maybe 90 days. 3 months. That's it. You're sweating over the power bill, watching the petrol gauge, and eating whatever's on special at the supermarket. By day 91, you're back to scratching around for the next paycheck. But throw that same $10,000 into a place like Da Nang or Nha Trang in Vietnam for a strategic reset, the math shifts completely. That's not 3 months. That's a full 12 months of sun, sand, and not having to pull out your banking app every time you want to shout your mates a round of beers. So, what gives? Why the hell is the gap so massive? It isn't just inflation, it's the invisible rent gap tax. We've normalised paying $1,300 a month just to share a dump with a complete stranger who leaves their dirty plates in the sink for 3 days. We've accepted that as the price of admission for living in Australia. You're working your guts out, handing over nearly half your take-home pay to a landlord, all for the privilege of feeling miserable in a room you don't even own. That's the villain of this story. It's not just the market, it's the fact that we've stopped questioning why we're paying premium prices for zero privacy. It's time we stopped playing the game and actually looked at what our money is supposed to be doing for us. And if the rent doesn't bleed you dry, our so-called universal healthcare system might just finish the job. We've been told for years that Medicare is the backbone of the country, but in 2026, it's a legend with a broken leg. You want to see a specialist in Adelaide? Good luck. You're looking at a wait time of 6 months just to get in the door. That is half a year of living with whatever is ailing you, crossing your fingers, and hoping it doesn't get worse while you sit on a waiting list that goes nowhere. And when you finally do get that appointment, you're still digging into your own pocket for a gap fee that will set you back anywhere from $40 to $100 every single visit. Now compare that to setting up base in Vietnam. You need to be smart about it. You grab a proper nomad insurance policy. Think Safety Wing or World Nomads, and it will cost you about $700 for the entire year. Sure, it is not for your day-to-day checkups, but for the stuff that actually matters. Emergencies, accidents, real trouble. You are covered. You also have to account for the paperwork, the visa runs. Every 90 days, you're jumping over to Cambodia or Laos to reset your stay, which costs you about $600 in total for the year, including your visas and travel. It's a bit of admin, but you're paying a small, predictable amount to keep your life moving. Here, the trade-off is clear. In Australia, we pay with our time, our patience, and extra cash at the counter. In Vietnam, you pay with a bit of planning, and you get your freedom back. It is the kind of absurdity that makes you wonder why we are still acting like the system is working when, frankly, it is just holding us hostage. But the real kicker, the one that really gets under your skin, it's where you're paying to sleep. We talk about the great Australian dream like it's still alive. But let's be honest, for a lot of people, that dream has been downgraded to a share house with 3 strangers. If you're hunting for a spot in Perth or Adelaide, you're looking at shelling out $325 a week just for the rent. That is $1,300 a month gone. And what exactly are you buying? A single room, a bathroom you share with someone whose cleaning habits are a total mystery, and the privilege of walking on eggshells in your own home. Your cost per square metre of privacy? Effectively zero. The market has us over a barrel. With rental vacancy rates in these cities stuck at historic lows, you have absolutely no leverage. You take what you can get, you pay whatever the landlord asks, and you don't ask questions. Now, flip the script. In Vietnam, you can secure a private studio apartment for roughly 5 million Vietnamese dong a month. That is about $300. High-speed internet, your own kitchen, total privacy, and a budget that actually accounts for you running the aircon all day without having a panic attack every time the bill hits. It is a different world. And frankly, paying a premium to live like a student when you are middle-aged, that is not a dream, that is a trap. And when you're not worrying about where you're sleeping, you're worrying about what you're eating. Back in Australia, you're in the thick of the daily grind, constantly counting the pennies. But in Vietnam, you're on a strategic break. You've got the time to actually enjoy the local life. And the best part is, you don't need a massive salary to do it, because the convenience tax you're used to paying in Oz simply doesn't exist here. If you're trying to live on a budget back home, your life is basically one endless, soul-crushing cycle of supermarket runs and Tupperware. You're looking at $150 a week just for groceries. You're trapped in survival mode meal prep, because if you aren't cooking every single meal at home, you're bleeding cash. Why? Because our labour costs are sky high. Now flip the script to Vietnam. I apply what I call the 70-30 rule. You make your own brekkie at home, keep it simple, but for lunch and dinner, you eat out every single day. But here is the catch. You are eating local, fresh, delicious, authentic local food. You're not buying the imported burgers or the Western price stuff that'll clean out your wallet in a fortnight. You're living the life, not acting like a tourist. Because the labour cost is already baked into the local economy, you aren't paying a massive markup just to have someone else prep your meal. You can grab a decent bowl of something fresh without having to check your banking app every time you order. It isn't a luxury, it's just Tuesday. So, let's look at the bottom line. It's not about running away, mate. It's about recognising the raw purchasing power of your hard-earned dosh. You take your $10,000. You clear out $1,300 for the year's insurance and your visa runs. That leaves you with $8,700. That's your lifeline for the next 12 months, roughly $725 a month. Now, compare that to the Aussie market. In our current economy, $725 a month is effectively a rounding error. It disappears before you can even blink, swallowed whole by the rent, the rising power bills, and the sheer relentless cost of keeping the lights on. It's gone. But move that same cash elsewhere and suddenly you have actual breathing room. You have to ask yourself the question, are we actually working to live, or are we just working to pay the landlord while they tighten the screws? The math shows we've got a massive problem with the basic cost of existence in Australia. It's time to stop ignoring the figures, because if you're running on a treadmill that's getting faster every single year, you have to wonder if it's finally time to step off and see if there's a better way to play the game. Maybe there is. And maybe that better way isn't permanent. Maybe it isn't about selling everything you own and disappearing overseas forever. Maybe it's as simple as giving yourself 12 months to breathe. 12 months to step outside the system, reset your finances, and find out what life feels like when every dollar isn't already spoken for before it hits your bank account. Vietnam isn't magic. It has its own headaches, its own bureaucracy, and its own trade-offs. But what it does offer is something that has become surprisingly rare back home, a bit of financial breathing room. And sometimes that's all you need. Not a miracle, not a lottery win, just enough space to think clearly again. Because once you've seen what your money can actually do elsewhere, it's very hard to come back and pretend the numbers in Australia still make sense.